Hello all, welcome to another endgame study of the Solving Other Studies to Improve Chess Calculation series. This one is a cooperation between Nikolay Rezvov and Vladimir Chernous. It's white to play and to win. As always, I suggest you watch the guide so we are better prepared for this practice. The 10-minute countdown will start. In the end, I will catch you up with the beginning of the guided solution. And let's start the solution. Okay, the position maybe looks a bit complex at the beginning, but the first thing we need to focus is to find the candidate moves to start. And to do that, we go step by step. We look at the characteristics of the position and then we find the candidate moves. The first thing that comes to our mind is, of course, the enemy position of the king, which is at the moment very well restricted by us. In fact, we even have a knight a bit more ahead, controlling the light square escape. So we may think, okay, there's possibly a checkmate over here. So if we remove the king, we are delivering a discover check, and hopefully we are going to checkmate it. So this is one candidate move to remove the king. Of course, there is also a possibility to remove it to a7, but this just allows the king another escape square. But okay, this is one candidate move up from the start. Of course, we also have two passed pawns, two connected passed pawns, which also allows us to think on other possibilities. One of them is to advance the f7 pawn, and now with two pawns on the 7th, they are connected. One of them is going to promote for a queen for sure. And of course, we even can promote the g pawn, so sacrificing it for the knight. But of course, after we can go with f7, and for sure we are going to get a queen over the board. So these are already two more candidate moves. The third one we see, because there is a very big threat from black to promote to a queen in one. So playing h1 promoting to a queen is a very dangerous threat, and we may think, okay, we can go with a rook, take care of that, and then we come back to see what's going on the other side. And in fact, this one maybe the easiest to see, it doesn't work. Black just takes one of our pawns, so the promotion of the last one is control. Black still has three light pieces and two pawns, so if we attack this pawn, well, just one knight can protect it, and forcing, maybe if you bring the knight, we are going to exchange things over here, but on the end, this pawn will be lost, the king can come to help, and so this is too passive for a win for white for sure. And the other natural one is to remove the king, so checking the enemy king. Notice that there are no more options than blocking with the bishop, which is check, but whatever. The bishop is going to be lost. Now the king goes to the only escape square, and notice that we are controlling everything. The problem is we don't have an extra pieces to go and play for a win from here. So now we need, for example, to promote to a queen. This doesn't work, so the idea is to sacrifice a queen to get another one over the board with the f7 pawn. But of course, black can start with promoting to a queen, it's check, forcing our pieces to become a bit more restricted on the movement, and then takes the queen. Of course, we can still go with f7, so having for sure a queen over the board, but black just removes one knight. If you take the other, well, it's simply game over for the winning chances for us. So let's say we promote to the queen. So now we are threatening a checkmate in one, but of course it's very easy to defend. The queen just comes back to d5, and from here it's almost white. It's going to play to try to draw, not a win, of course. Notice that white is more or less in zugzwang. If the king comes, if the king moves, well, keeping protection of the rook, well, black just takes the knight and check and keeps playing on. So this is not the best idea. If the knight moves elsewhere, we can take the rook and check. And of course, if the queen moves, let's say to h8 or h6, well, we simply can take the knight also. So it's not a good position to be if we go with this path. So when we arrive here, well, maybe we are forced to bring just for a draw and bring the knight to this passive line, which already saw that it's not possible to go for a win. Now the king approaches our pawn, and so even if we get the rook against the knight, well, the king just approaches the pawn, so we need to protect it. But black still has another pawn, so starts advancing the d pawn. Our king may come to try to help, but after a while the rook needs to go there, and when it happens, the king takes our last pawn, and so as you can see, it's game over for the line. This was the line where the king tried to go with the discover check and checkmate. So this doesn't work. So we have two remaining. So let's see what happens if we go with the f7. So we have 2 pawns. One of them is going to be promoted to a queen, and so now it's black to play. Of course, taking the pawn doesn't work. We just promote to a queen, and we are on the move again. Even if black promotes the queen is not enough, we are going to be very fast. Notice that we are under check, but we remove the king, and it's a discover check again. So this works in our favor. The king moves, but we are on the move, so now we bring the queen, queen c4. Only way is to block with the bishop, and then ta-da, checkmate, game over, bye bye. And what else can we do over here? Uh, uh, let's say black can go and, of course, promote the queen now. Now we are able to get a queen over the board. So let's say we go with the queen on g8, so forcing the knight to take, and now we take back, and so we have a queen over the board. But it's black on the move. And as you know already, initiative is very important for the queens in open boards. And of course, the queen comes checking our king, and notice that now it's not possible anymore for white to deliver checkmate. In fact, white is forced to go and repeat moves because there is no other way to keep the draw. If we allow black to move again, it starts to come with pieces, and so it's not going to be good for white. So we just end up with a draw if you go with this one. And finally, last but not least, what else? We need to find the correct one, which is the brilliant move to go with g8, promoting to a queen, double exclamation mark. Okay, this is the first move for the solution. Now it's black to play, and the first thing we need to see is always what happens if black goes with promoting to a queen. So we need to consider always this one. Of course, over here we can go with the queen g5. So the idea is to threat checkmate with advancing the pawn, which forces black to go to forced line. So the only one is queen going to b1, checking our king. Now the king get out of the way, and it's check. Of course, we don't want to allow the king to move away, because then we use check in a5. The queen only way to stop it, it's blocking, and then it's checkmate. So we need to block it as black with the bishop. Of course, over here, we are just going to advance the pawn, so delivering the discovering check. The king needs to move, goes to the only possible square at the moment. And of course, we have another pawn over the board, and we are going to under promote it to a knight, which is the smartest move over here. So check, the king again is forced to go to the critical c7 square, and now we already know that we are going to checkmate it. It's just a matter of, okay, which one should I choose? Should I go with the a5 check, the queen blocks, and checkmate? This is one. Or should I have fun with going to a7? I think this is probably the simplest one. There is only one way to stop it. It's blocking again with the bishop, but okay, it's another checkmate. Or let's have fun and find a more interesting and creative one, which is to bring the knight out, check, the bishop takes the knight, but can you find the checkmate now? Well, it's already always fun to go and have this one. So it's an impossible solution for black if it goes with the queen, and of course black won't do it and go with the knight accepting the queen, and so we are ready for the next one. It's now the first moment to stop. It's 1 minute countdown. Pause if you need more. We already saw a lot of these maneuvers, and so probably you are going to be more attentive to the candidate moves, and then I come back to go on with a solution. And I think from now things are going to be faster. Of course, over here there is a possibility of going with f7, so we sacrifice 1 pawn probably to get a queen over the board. But of course now h1 promoting to a queen works. We saw more or less this working before, so we are going to see it again. And the king can escape to e7, so this cover check didn't work because now the queen checks the king. Notice that we are also threatening to bring the queen over the board very fast, so with black. So we need to go on and check again, check, and so we are just going to have a draw over here, so this is not possible, f7. Also, I have never talked too much about this discover check, but this just allows the king to come to c7, so notice that now we are threatening to promote to a queen, but when black promotes, this is a bit bad because we are just threatening checkmate in one, which forces white to not be able to save this one. So this is just to remove this option out of the way. The correct move is, of course, to deliver the discover check, but with the king b7, as we saw in the first candidate's moves of the starting position. So now it's black to play, and we already know only way is to block it with the bishop, and we take the bishop and the king goes to d7. So until here everything was normal. So now again, another pause. This is going to be faster, I think, so just 1 minute, and then I come back to go on. And in my view, this is the hardest one. This is the one we are going to suffer more to find it. At least it was what happened with me. Because let's go with the normal ideas. Let's go with advancing the pawn. So we don't have a direct checkmate with our pieces, so we need another one. But if we go with the f7, well, black just brings the queen over the board. It's check. We need to block it. Let's say we block with the knight this time, then the queen comes to b1, check. The king needs to move to one side or another. If it goes to a6, well, this just brings our knight, forcing the and of course, as you can see here, the easiest way it's even to just fork the king, check, and on the other side we are going to grab the pawn. So for black, this is very easy. And of course, if we block it with the rook, this doesn't change much. We are just going to bring the queen over to d5, and of course notice that we are already before we saw this position, so white is now fighting for a draw, not for a win anymore. It's the zugzang. If the king moves, I can take the knight with check. If the knight moves elsewhere, I can take the rook with check. The queen can't come to deliver checkmate, and so if the queen goes to anywhere possible, then we can just grab the knight and then bring, well, at least black has a draw for sure. And so this doesn't work to go with f7. So let's see other possibilities. Let's see what happens if we try to check the king. Well, this is just obvious. We are just going to lose the rook, so almost impossible. And if we go again to try to avoid the promotion of the queen, we already know what is going to happen. It's just going to be a draw for sure. So we need to find this brilliant idea, which is to sacrifice the rook. So check. Of course, the king is forced to take, and so now what is the correct continuation for white? The hardest part was already done, so I hope you are going to find it easily. Another minute, but pause if you need more. And if you think that now it's the moment to f7, you are going to be surprised because no, this is still a blunder. Why? Because on the other side, black promotes to a queen, so it's check, and you think, okay, we are good with it because we can check the king moves, and then we can under promote to a knight to checkmate. Okay, we are happy. Well, the problem is this is not what black is going to do. It's going to take our knight, so sacrificing the queen, of course, to avoid checkmate. The king takes, and now notice that we need to control this pawn, but we are able as black. So we check the king. Where the king moves almost doesn't matter because we are going to be able to control the promotion of the pawn. If white tries to continue, let's say, coming back to the same place, we can simply now check, fork the and get the pawn. And notice that this pawn is always protected, so it's impossible for white to save this one, even with a draw. So it will be a loss. And suddenly we see, okay, this doesn't work again. So what is the probable continuation? Well, let's say we bring the knight. We bring knight e6, check, the king moves, but how can we force it anymore? Not possible. We need to repeat position and get a draw. So this also doesn't work. But let's think a bit. Okay, we went with f7, the queen promotes check, then we went to the knight and allowed the queen to sacrifice. That was the problem. So the solution comes, Bram, from one technique that I talked before in several videos, and also on the 21 day challenge for calculation, which is to go and change the move order. So we start with the knight, so forcing the king to come first to this position. Now we advance the pawn, so notice that now we are threatening to go with checkmate in one. Let's say, for example, now black promotes to the queen. I will be very happy to deliver this checkmate with only two knights over the board. Brilliant. The problem is, of course, black still has the chance to move. And of course, black already sees, okay, it's going to under promotion. I'm not just starting chess, so I see it and I play d5. So the idea is to allow the king to escape if a knight comes over the board, and then it's a win because on the other side there will be a queen. And so again, we need to stop the clock. It's not the final one. So as you see, we still have some things to see over here. Find what is the now the correct continuation for white to keep going for a win. We are almost there. Not yet, but we are almost there. So over here, we see, okay, we have some candidate moves. We have the possibility of going with a queen to f8, taking the knight on g8, or taking the knight on e8. Of course, I think taking the knight on g8 is not even a consideration. If we take the knight, well, if we take the knight and promote to a queen, well, black just can takes back, and of course with just one night, what are we going to expect? Nothing, of course. And the other possibilities, promoting for a knight, we already saw the king escapes, and promoting to a queen also doesn't help because now it's black on the move and simply can, of course, check the king. Notice that it's not possible anymore for white to establish a good connection between pieces, and so check again, and of course it will bring the queen, and over here we are just fighting for a draw. It's impossible to force it anymore. And last but not the least, of course, we need to find that the only good continuation is, of course, to go and take the knight, but on g8. It's, of course, black to move. Of course, black now needs to remove the knight with check. The king moves, and of course, now it's the moment to bring the queen over the board. Of course, the correct move is this one. We also can see this one, but of course, over here it's different because we are going to be able to checkmate. So not a good continuation for black. So the correct one here is for black to promote the queen. And so yes, now it's the final moment. Let's see what is the correct move from white to go for a win until the end. And okay, it's time to finish this one in style. Of course, checking the king is not the one because the king just escaped. This is just a draw. So we need to find the correct move with our queen, which is, I don't think that hard. It's going to be, of course, going up with the queen g7. This is the only way to restrict the key. If the king now goes to c7, we have a checkmate in one with the queen on c7. If it goes also to e8, well, there's a checkmate on e7 again, but the beauty price is going to be with the king going to e6, and now we checkmate it, but with our knight. Well, it was a long run from the beginning, a lot of things to see, very hard moves to find, but nevertheless, always a good calculation exercise for us. Hope you also have enjoyed, and as always, catch you up with future videos, and bye bye, and keep checking.